Hello, friends, and welcome back to Pillow Tales. Thank you for choosing to spend this quiet time with me tonight. Before we sink into the velvet shadows of our mystery, please tell me in the comments where you are listening from, whether you're nestled in a city apartment or tucked away in a quiet country home. Tonight, we journey into the meticulous mind of the great Hercule Poirot. Our pace will be slow, deliberate, and entirely relaxing. We are looking for the truth hidden not in chaos, but in perfect, rigid order. Shh! The engine is warming up, and the precise timing of our new adventure is about to begin. Poirot and the perfect country train schedule. Detective Hercule Poirot. Setting Ashworth Hall and the London Dover line, 1920s. Moral: the danger of obsession with control. Chapter 1. The Collector of Clocks. Introduction and Setup. Our journey into intrigue begins not on a dark street or in a smoky cafe, but in a place dedicated entirely to the worship of precision, Ashworth Hall. The year was 1929, and the world was accelerating. But within the walls of this sprawling country estate, time was held captive. Ashworth Hall belonged to Sir Alistair Finch, a man famous less for his wealth, though he possessed considerable, and more for his intense, almost feverish devotion to railway schedules and clocks. His greatest obsession was his private collection of pocket watches and the meticulously crafted, minute-by-minute timetable of the small branch line that ran directly past his estate, connecting London to the coastal town of Dover. It was this peculiar passion that drew the celebrated Belgian detective Hercule Poirot to the hall. Poirot, himself a man who revered order and symmetry, had been invited by Sir Alistair, ostensibly to admire the collection, but perhaps, as Poirot suspected, to quietly settle the small, embarrassing matter of a missing gold chronometer. Poirot was observing the main drawing room. This was no ordinary drawing room. It was a cathedral to punctuality. Mantelpieces were crowded with gleaming brass and silver clocks, all ticking in perfect, synchronized rhythm. Above the fireplace hung a framed, official, slightly yellowed copy of the 1929 London Dover train schedule. It was here, amidst the oppressive order, that Sir Alistair had gathered his peculiar circle. Let us introduce the players in this highly regulated drama. First, there was Lady Eleanor Finch, Sir Alistair's niece and ward. A strikingly beautiful young woman, she moved with a graceful slowness that seemed deliberately at odds with her uncle's obsession with haste. She was financially dependent on Sir Alistair, yet her eyes held a weariness that suggested a longing for freedom, perhaps a freedom her uncle's controlling nature would never allow. History of standardized railway time. Rix was intelligent but visibly resentful, always seeming to feel he was performing the bulk of the work, while Sir Alistair received the majority of the praise. Near the window, observing the grey afternoon with a frown, was Mr. Jasper Wells. Wells was Sir Alistair's long-term solicitor and financial advisor. He held a significant amount of power over the Finch estate and was known to be a man who disliked surprises. He had recently been fighting fiercely with Sir Alistair over a proposed risky investment in South American railways, a venture Wells strongly opposed. And finally, seated across from Poirot, was Miss Clarissa Dean. Miss Dean was the Hall's quiet, efficient, and almost invisible house secretary. She managed the estate's affairs, but her primary duty was maintaining Sir Alistair's colossal clock collection and cross-referencing every public schedule change with his private records. She was privy to every minute of Sir Alistair's day, and perhaps every secret of the house. Sir Alistair himself, tall and brittle, entered the room precisely 3 minutes before 5 o'clock tea was served, a schedule he rigidly enforced. He was carrying a small, leather-bound volume, which he placed reverently on the mahogany table. Poirot, my friend, you are observing the perfection, yes? Notice how every clock is perfectly synchronized to the moment the 4:58 express passes the South Garden gate. This is not chance. This is order. And this, he tapped the volume, is the complete, original 1888 timetable for the entire Southern Rail line. A unique document, I assure you. It is the very essence of control. Sir Alistair merely scoffed when Poirot suggested that life often refuses to obey the rule of perfect timing. As the clock struck 5, Miss Dean entered with the tea trolley. The rigid schedule of the hall continued, but Poirot felt a cold certainty settle upon him. When order is prized above all else, the disruption must, by necessity, be catastrophic. The stage was set, and the delicate mechanism of the Finch family's life was wound tight, ready to snap. Chapter 2: The Disruption of Time, the Crime Discovered. The catastrophe arrived precisely at 6 o'clock. Dinner was served, but Sir Alistair was not present at the head of the long dining table, which, for a man obsessed with punctuality, was an unthinkable breach of routine. Lady Eleanor and Mr. Wells exchanged nervous glances, but it was Miss Dean who first voiced the alarm. "Sir Alistair is never late," she stated, her voice tight with professional panic. "He retired to the library precisely at 5:30 to consult the original schedules for his book. I heard the lock turn as he always does." A footman was dispatched, then the butler, and finally Mr. Wells himself, followed by Poirot and the visibly agitated Professor Rix. The library was a sombre, silent room. The large, heavy oak door was, as Miss Dean reported, locked securely from the inside. They knocked, they called, but received no response save for the echoing silence. Mr. Wells, declaring the situation unprecedented and unacceptable, ordered the butler to use the emergency key. The butler, trembling, opened the door. The sight inside immediately froze the breath in the room. Sir Alistair Finch was lying on the thick Persian rug near his central reading desk. He was quite obviously dead. The murder weapon, an antique silver letter opener from his collection, was plunged deeply and decisively into his chest. Poirot surveyed the scene with a sharp, professional clarity. This was an elegant, classic, locked-room mystery. The windows were latched from the inside. The chimney was too narrow for entry. The door was securely bolted. The small gathering of suspects gasped and murmured, but Poirot's attention was already focused on two immediate and peculiar elements of the crime. First, the leather-bound volume, the 1888 timetable that Sir Alistair had so proudly displayed, was gone from the desk. Second, and most bizarrely, the large, ornate wall clock hanging directly above the desk, the master clock of the room, had been deliberately stopped. The hands were fixed at precisely 5:03 p.m. Mon Dieu, Poirot murmured, stepping carefully over a fallen chair. The crime is not merely murder, but a dramatic statement upon time itself. The victim is silenced, and the clock is stopped. The thief has stolen, not money, but a historical document. And yet, this clock, deliberately frozen at 5:03 p.m., it is a challenge, n'est-ce pas? The criminal seeks to fix the exact moment of their dark deed. We have here a perfect clock, stopped by a very imperfect hand. The first question we must answer is this: why 5:03 p.m.? And who has the perfect alibi for that one singular minute? Poirot instructed the staff to secure the room, forbidding any further entry. The investigation into the perfect country train schedule had begun, and the suspects were trapped in the rigid, unforgiving timetable of their own alibis. Chapter 3. The 5:03 alibi. Investigation begins. The local constabulary were notified, but the sheer inaccessibility of Ashworth Hall ensured that Poirot had a crucial period of several hours to conduct his own inquiries, free from the heavy-handed procedures of Scotland Yard. He established the motive analysis first. Lady Eleanor stood to inherit a large sum, escaping her uncle's tyranny. Professor Rix, the collaborator, had clearly been growing resentful of his intellectual contributions being overshadowed. Mr. Wells, the solicitor, stood to gain control over the estate's finances, saving it from Sir Alistair's disastrous South American investment. Miss Dean, the quiet secretary, had unhindered access to every part of the house and its secrets. Poirot then began the tedious but necessary process of verifying everyone's actions at 5:03 p.m., the time emphatically stamped on the murder scene. Lady Eleanor Finch was questioned first. "I was in the South Garden, Monsieur Poirot," she stated, her voice low. "It was a dreary evening, but I needed air. I was walking near the hedge, past the garden gate, and I clearly heard the 4:58 express rumble past. After that, I returned to my room to prepare for dinner." Her alibi was isolated, but relied on the time of the train. Professor Ricks was next. "At 5:03, I was in the North Study, comparing Sir Alistair's notes on the 1895 schedule to my own. I was working until the dinner gong. I can provide the exact page numbers and annotations I was reviewing. I heard the train, of course. One cannot live here and not hear the express at 4:58. His alibi was based on verifiable work, but he was alone. Mr. Jasper Wells offered the most robust alibi. I was in the main drawing room, reading a financial gazette by the fireplace. The butler, Jennings, entered to adjust the fire, and he was with me until at least 5:15. He can vouch for my presence at 5:03. This provided a concrete witness, making Wells's alibi appear unassailable. Finally, Miss Clarissa Dean was questioned. I was in the basement, winding the mechanism of the old grandfather clock near the wine cellar. It requires winding precisely at 5 o'clock every day. I finished just after 5:10. I was alone, but the mechanism is quite loud, and I was certainly occupied. Her alibi was solitary, yet completely consistent with her rigid duties. Poirot noted that every suspect had a perfect timed alibi for 5:03 p.m., confirming the criminal's intentional use of the stopped clock. The killer had not only committed the crime, but had cleverly constructed a temporal defense, making the investigation less about who was doing what and more about the fundamental accuracy of time itself. The perfect timetable, Poirot realized, was the key to unlocking the perfect murder. Chapter 4: The Sound of the Southern Line, Clues and Red Herrings. Poirot dismissed the local constabulary's initial theory that a tramp had somehow scaled the walls, murdered Sir Alistair, and escaped unseen, as idiotique. The answer, he knew, lay entirely within the minute details of the timetable. He ordered the butler, Jennings, to fetch the most recent official railway schedule for the London-Dover line. Poirot sat by the drawing-room fire, comparing the official printout to Sir Alistair's notes, which were filled with meticulous, handwritten corrections. He noticed a recurrent, almost obsessive annotation next to the 4:58 p.m. express. Actual passage at Ashworth Gate, 5:02 p.m. Due to a slight curve in the track outside the estate, the train consistently ran 4 minutes behind its scheduled passage time as it approached the hall. "Ah, voilà," Poirot exclaimed softly. The 4:58 express did not pass at 5:03 p.m., but at 5:02 p.m. The stopped clock at 5:03 p.m. was not a precise record of the murder. It was a deliberate lie, a calculated red herring, designed to throw the entire investigation off by 60 critical seconds. If the killer had been meticulous enough to know the train was late, they would have known the true time was 5:02 p.m. By stopping the clock at 5:03 p.m., the killer was signaling to Poirot that the time was unreliable and forcing him to look for a struggle that happened after the train's loud passage, when in fact the struggle must have happened before or during the passage to mask the sound. This realization completely changed the focus. The motive was not simply murder, but theft, and not theft of money, but of secrets. Poirot insisted on examining the library safe, which Mr. Wells stated held only documents, not cash or jewellery. The safe was cleverly hidden behind a revolving globe. It was not forced. It had been opened with the key and was empty. The missing item was not the 1888 timetable, a distraction, but a set of older, sensitive, financial and personal documents that Sir Alistair kept separate from the estate records. The perfect alibis for 5:03 p.m. were worthless. The only thing that mattered was the 5-minute window before the train passed, 4:50 p.m. to 4:55 p.m., when Sir Alistair was known to be alone in the library. Chapter 5. The Secretary's Secret, Complications and Twists. Poirot returned to the physical details of the locked room. He examined the door carefully, noting a slight, almost invisible abrasion on the edge of the brass door knocker, which was quite heavy. He deduced that the killer, after committing the deed, had utilized a thin, flexible piece of wire or stiff string, threading it under the door and attaching it to the bolt. By securing the wire to the heavy door knocker, they could pull the bolt shut from the outside, creating the illusion of a door locked from the inside. This trick required meticulous preparation and knowledge of the library's specific fittings. Knowledge that pointed directly to someone familiar with the household's mechanisms. Poirot summoned Miss Clarissa Dean for a private interview. He ignored the clock question and focused instead on the stolen documents. "Miss Dean," he asked gently, "the documents stolen from the safe were not financial. They were personal. They pertained to a legacy. And you, Miss Dean, were not simply the secretary who maintained the clocks, were you?" Miss Dean, The perpetually quiet and efficient secretary finally crumbled. With quiet tears, she confessed the shocking truth. She was Sir Alistair's illegitimate daughter, the result of a youthful indiscretion. She had worked at the Hall for years, enduring her father's cold indifference, believing the documents in the safe contained proof of her parentage and her claim to the estate. The twist deepened the complexity. Miss Dean had stolen the documents earlier in the afternoon, sometime before 4 p.m., desperate to secure her identity before the estate was reorganized. She admitted that when she went to wind the clock at 5 p.m., her alibi, she had seen the library door slightly ajar and the clock already stopped at 5:03 p.m. Fearing discovery, she had said nothing. Her action, the theft of the documents, was a major complication, but it cleared her entirely of the murder, as the documents were already gone when Sir Alistair entered the library. The true killer had only found the empty safe. Poirot was now left with 3 suspects: Eleanor, Wells, Rix, and a timeline that pointed to the minutes before the train arrived. Chapter 6. The 5-minute window, the revelation. Poirot gathered the remaining 3 suspects, Lady Eleanor, Professor Rix, and Mr. Wells, in the drawing room, the rhythmic ticking of dozens of clocks filling the expectant silence. He began his summation by discarding the illusion of the stopped clock. The time 5:03 p.m. is irrelevant. It is a lie. The murder occurred before the train passed at 5:02 p.m., likely between 4:50 p.m. and 4:55 p.m., when Sir Alistair went to the library alone, thinking he was checking on his documents. He explained the wire mechanism that created the locked room, showing that the killer was someone familiar with the house's hardware, but not necessarily a servant. He eliminated Lady Eleanor. Her motive was financial freedom, but her character, though desperate, lacked the cold, calculating precision needed for the complex wire mechanism and the staged clock. She would have likely used poison or a direct confrontation. He eliminated Mr. Wells. Wells's motive was purely financial, preventing the disastrous South American investment. Yet the stolen item was not money, but the 1888 timetable, a document of no financial value to a solicitor. Wells lacked the specialized motive tied to Sir Alistair's obsession. That leaves us with the man obsessed with research, with historical data, and with an intellectual claim that Sir Alistair stole, Poirot announced, fixing his gaze on Professor Malcolm Rix. Professor Rix, your stated alibi was that you were comparing notes in the study. But the true motivation for this crime lies in the very schedule that Sir Alistair possessed. You were working on a definitive book with Sir Alistair, correct? But what if you discovered that your research was fundamentally flawed because Sir Alistair, in his arrogance, had corrupted the original source material? The truth, Poirot stated, was that Rix had discovered that Sir Alistair had secretly falsified the historical data in the 1888 timetable years ago to win a historical bet, an act which completely undermined Professor Rix's life's work. Chapter 7. The perfect alibi of resentment. Justice served. Professor Rix's composure finally cracked. He gripped the arms of his chair, his eyes burning with years of suppressed intellectual resentment. He stole my work, Poirot. He took the credit, but worse, he built his entire reputation, his entire life's schedule on a fraudulent timeline. That 1888 timetable was proof that his reputation was a sham, and my own academic career was based on a lie he perpetuated. Poirot explained how the murder was executed with a terrible, calculated timing. Rix knew Sir Alistair would be in the library at 4:50 p.m. He went there, found Sir Alistair alone, and used the antique letter opener, which Rix knew Sir Alistair often left on his desk, in the ensuing struggle. The struggle, the shouts, and the fatal blow were perfectly masked by the thundering noise of the 4:58 express passing the hall at 5:02 p.m. Rix was safe from the moment the noise started. After the murder, Rix performed two critical steps. He used the wire to lock the door from the outside, and then, using his perfect knowledge of the clock mechanisms, he opened the glass face of the master clock and deliberately stopped the hands at the misleading time of 5:03 p.m. after the train noise had faded. He stole the 1888 timetable, the proof of his ruined career, and concealed the murder weapon. The stopped clock was not an alibi for you, Professor, Poirot concluded. It was a signal to the world that you, the expert on time, were the only person who could perfectly control the very moment of death. The murder weapon, the antique silver letter opener, is now nestled in the inner lining of your large research bag, disguised among your notes on railway history. The local police, arriving with the morning light, confirmed Poirot's deduction. The letter opener was found, and Professor Rix, his perfect alibi shattered by 1 minute of false time, finally submitted to his arrest. Chapter 8. The final ticking. Resolution. With the arrest of Professor Rix, the perfect, rigid atmosphere of Ashworth Hall finally began to crack. The truth of Sir Alistair's life, that his celebrated reputation was built on a lie, and that his control was merely an illusion, was exposed. The small bundle of personal documents stolen by Miss Dean was recovered, confirming her identity as Sir Alistair's daughter. Mr. Wells, relieved the disastrous South American investment was shelved, handled the estate with newfound sobriety. Lady Eleanor, shocked but finally free of her uncle's tyranny, found a quiet strength she hadn't known she possessed. The mystery of the missing timetable was solved, not by tracking its journey, but by understanding its value to the killer. The document, which Rix had intended to destroy, was recovered from his luggage, revealing the subtle falsification by Sir Alistair years prior. It was proof that the victim's obsession with perfect order was the very imperfection that caused his downfall. The estate, though grieving, breathed a collective sigh of relief as the suffocating obsession with time was finally lifted. The clocks, however, continued their steady, relentless ticking, a gentle reminder that while one man's schedule may have ended, the steady rhythm of life and the train would continue. Chapter 9. Reflections on Control. Poirot's musings. Poirot sat alone in the sunlit drawing room, where the clocks now seemed to tick with a less frantic, almost peaceful sound. The drama was gone, replaced by the profound quiet of aftermath. He reflected on Sir Alistair's fatal flaw, the obsession with controlling time and, by extension, controlling the lives and reputations of those around him. He spoke quietly to Miss Dean, now officially recognized as Eleanor's cousin, advising her on her future. "You sought your heritage through secrets, mademoiselle, but honesty is always the fastest track to resolution. Your father tried to control the past. Professor Rix tried to control the present. They both failed because life, mon enfant, is like the English countryside. Beautiful, surprising, and utterly unwilling to be confined to a straight line on a schedule." He looked out the window as the 4:58 express, now punctual, sped by. The noise was loud, powerful, but fleeting. He reflected that the simple noise of the train, meant to be a symbol of Sir Alistair's control, had become the perfect camouflage for his destruction. Poirot realized that his own reverence for order was healthy only because he applied it to the facts of the mind, never to the mess of the human heart. The petits gris had done their work, and now the great detective felt the profound need for stillness, for the clocks in his own mind to quieten. Chapter 10. Sweet Dreams from Pillow Tales. Closing. The sun has set over Ashworth Hall, casting long, peaceful shadows across the manicured lawns. The drama of the murder is over, and the gentle, relentless rhythm of the English countryside has returned. The final sounds you hear are the soft, synchronized ticking of the remaining clocks, their steady heartbeat no longer a symbol of obsession, but of the comforting continuation of time. Our long journey with Hercule Poirot, tracing the perfect alibi through the minute details of the train schedule has come to its quiet conclusion. There is nothing left to solve tonight, only the gentle, rhythmic sound of the steady earth. Let the smooth, unhurried pace of the story carry away any lingering worries or tensions from your own mind. Imagine the velvet curtains drawn against the night, the soft light of the moon, and the cozy warmth of a safe, quiet room. Close your eyes, let your breathing deepen, and allow the intricate details of the great detective's world to soothe you into the deepest, most restorative sleep. Good night, friends. May your night be perfectly timed for rest and peace.